Welcome to Why Travel France channel.
Today, we're digging into one of the most iconic moments in all of history, the storming of the Bastille. It's a story we've all heard, but what really happened on that crazy day? Let's get into it. All right, let's jump straight into the chaos. The date is July 14th, 1789. The air in Paris is just electric, thick with rumors, with fear, and with this new dangerous idea of revolution. A huge crowd is marching through the streets, and they're all headed for one place, a dark, medieval fortress that loomed over the city as the ultimate symbol of the king's power, the Bastille. Now, while all this is happening, miles away at the Palace of Versailles, King Louis XVI gets the news. The story goes, he asks, "Is it a revolt?" And the reply he gets back is just legendary. It perfectly captured the chilling reality of the situation. This wasn't just another riot. No way. The entire world was about to change. And what's so wild here is just how fast it all escalated. It starts as a simple demand for gunpowder, and then, boom, in just a few hours, it's a full-blown siege. The real game changer? Around 3 p.m., a bunch of professional soldiers actually switched sides, bringing cannons with them. And just like that, by evening, the fortress had fallen. But here's where the story gets really interesting. This place, this symbol of tyranny and oppression, this dungeon people thought was filled with political prisoners, it held a grand total of 7 inmates. Yep, that's it, 7. We're talking 4 foragers, 2 men who were considered mentally unstable, and 1 aristocrat who was only there because his family asked for it. No heroes of the revolution, nobody like that. So that leads to the big question, right? If this place was basically empty and was already on the list to be torn down anyway, why on earth did its fall trigger a revolution? Well, to get that answer, we need to zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture of what was going on in France. Let's rewind the clock a little. Because in the 1780s, France was a kingdom on life support. It was teetering on the edge of total collapse, all because it was stuck in a system that was frankly way past its expiration date. And that system had a name, the Ancien Régime, or the Old Order. Basically, the king's rule was seen as absolute, handed down from God himself, and society was split into these 3 incredibly rigid and deeply unequal social classes. So you have this old order just sitting on a powder keg. The government was completely broke, partly because they'd helped fund the American Revolution, ironically. Years of bad harvests meant the price of bread, the main food for the poor, was skyrocketing. On top of that, all the taxes were falling on the common people, while these radical new ideas about liberty and rights were spreading like wildfire. And this chart, well, it shows you everything you need to know. You've got the first estate, the clergy, and the second estate, the nobility. Together, they made up maybe 2% of the population, but they held almost all the wealth and paid basically 0 taxes. And then you had the third estate. That was everybody else. 98% of the country carrying all of the weight with none of the power. So the whole country is on a knife's edge. The third estate had already started to form its own government, a national assembly, to write a new constitution. And the king, feeling his power just slipping away, makes one huge mistake. And that mistake is what lights the fuse. Okay, so it all goes down on July 11th. The king fires his finance minister, Jacques Necker, who was pretty popular with the people. Everyone in Paris sees this as the king getting ready to crack down. The very next day, a journalist named Camille Desmoulins gives this incredible fiery speech that gets the city all riled up. Parisians then storm a military hospital, grabbing thousands of muskets. But they found no gunpowder. And there was one obvious place in the city to get a whole lot of gunpowder. And this was Desmoulins' big call to action. He jumped up on a table and basically yelled that the king's soldiers were about to massacre everyone. In that single moment of panic and passion, he turned a scared, disorganized crowd into an armed rebellion, setting the stage for what would happen 2 days later. So, when the Bastille fell, it wasn't just a military victory. It was like a psychological earthquake. It was the moment the people of Paris looked around and realized, wait a minute, we're the ones with the power now. And the king realized he lost control. And the fallout was immediate. A totally stunned King Louis pulls his troops out of Paris. A new citizens' army, the National Guard, just springs into existence, and they put the American Revolutionary War hero, Lafayette, in charge. A new government was literally being born right there in the streets. And this slide really nails the huge shift in thinking that was going on. I mean, the entire foundation of their society was being torn up and rebuilt from scratch. The idea that kings were chosen by God, gone. Replaced by the idea that power comes from the people. A world based on who your parents were was giving way to a world of legal equality. People weren't subjects of a king anymore, they were citizens of a nation. And get this, just a few weeks after the Bastille fell, the National Assembly issued this incredible document. It's a landmark in human history. It declared that all people have universal rights to liberty and property. And it became the DNA for the new France. And honestly, an inspiration for freedom movements all over the globe, even today. So let's circle back to that first big question. How did this crumbling, almost empty old fortress become the enduring symbol of one of the most important revolutions in history? Well, the Bastille's real power came from the giant gap between the myth and the reality. The myth was this dark, terrifying dungeon packed with innocent people being tortured by the king. The reality was, it was an expensive, outdated relic. But you know, in a revolution, what people believe is often way more important than the truth. And the revolutionaries, they were absolute masters of propaganda. They spun the storming of the Bastille into this epic story of heroes freeing the oppressed. They printed pamphlets filled with these wild, completely made-up tales of torture. Even the act of tearing the fortress down, brick by brick, became this powerful public performance of destroying the old system. They didn't just win a fight, they created a legend. And that legend went global pretty fast. Lafayette actually sent the main key to the Bastille to his friend and fellow revolutionary George Washington. You can still see it today if you visit Washington's home at Mount Vernon. It's this amazing physical link between the American and French revolutions, and it just shows you how powerful that symbol became. So yeah, the takeaway is pretty clear. Just 2 days after the attack, the British ambassador wrote this in a report. Even an outsider, a foreign observer, knew immediately that the rules of the game had completely changed. A new world had just been born. In the end, the story of the Bastille is about so much more than a building. It's about the power of an idea, the power of a symbol to become a force that's more potent than any army or any king. It's a pretty stark reminder that in moments of big change, the stories we tell and the symbols we rally behind can actually shape the future. Which kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What are the symbols that hold that kind of power in our world today?